Hey, what's up? This is John Delony with Ramsey Network. We are back with Pastor John Faison and talking about what's going on in my neighborhood, what's going on in your neighborhood, what's going on in our hearts. And I want to model what submission looks like, and I want to model what listening and learning looks like, and shutting our mouths. So in the last video, we talked about my little neighborhood. You gave me a history lesson on my neighborhood that I didn't know, right? These sidewalks that my kids run on that were paved by the blood, sweat, and tears of other folks. And we often live in the what's tomorrow going to look like, what's tomorrow going to look like, and I don't pay attention to the sidewalks that I'm walking on that were laid by other people. And you and I talked before we even started recording that I got a passion for the secondary traumatic stress. Helpers who help other people.
Sure.
And the people who end up in helping roles, usually through the course of their life, have either been forced into a helper role or they have found success in a helper role. They're natural leaders. They're people who people go to, right? You've got a history in the military. You've got a history of working with young people. And so naturally over the course of how many years, you have formed yourself or have let others speak into you, and you've become now a leader in a community far beyond just one church, right? I'm interested in, with all due respect, not Pastor John Faison.
Sure.
I'm interested in this guy John that works in my neighborhood. How are you?
I'm exhausted. I'm tired.
Yeah.
And that's
a hard place to be on the front end of a trauma. You know what I mean?
It's the hard place to be on the front end, but man, it is a picture of a lot of folks who look like me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're deflecting again. How is John doing?
It's a habit.
I know.
I'm exhausted. I'm tired. We get the cumulative effect of trauma, but also trauma now has proximity to terrorize us every day because of social media and access to technology, and everywhere you go, it's constantly there. And I know the awareness and education is necessary, but I
often tell people you can sit in it, but don't bathe in it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You got to find something to do with it. And that's what I've been trying to spend the last 4 or 5 days doing.
Okay.
Working through, processing, and putting the trauma somewhere, not letting it sit in your soul.
Where are you putting it?
Man.
Because a lot of guys put it on their wives, they put it on their kids, they put it out on these stupid boxes, right?
Well, man, listen, self-care. Self-care is my wife's a therapist, so that helps. she helps.
He knows my whole playbook, man.
We're quite a bit of this stuff. So, working out, there's a physical heavis that sits on you when you deal with trauma. You got to get that stuff out.
Yep.
Sweating, exercise for that helps for me. Having a safe space, a group of friends, of accountability folks, but also just folks where I could just say what I need to say, man, and get it out into space.
That makes you rare air for a pastor.
Very much so.
That submits themselves to a group of people that hold you accountable.
Yeah. Gotta have it. Everybody
who are
has
those people
to answer
for you?
to somebody.
You don't gotta give names, but
they're pastors.
How do
They're pastors. So when I come into those spaces, I don't have to explain. They get it already. When I walk into that space, it's what's understood doesn't have to be explained. Okay. So there's a space that we've created. When I got to Nashville, man, I prayed to God, because I'm not from here. I prayed to God. Yeah. I prayed to God. God, send me some friends. I need some real, authentic relationships. I don't do faux connection. I don't do a lot of superficial stuff. Yep. I need a space that's safe. I need a space where I can be John and without apology, without defense, without being judged, and without it ending up on Facebook and the Tennessean.
Yes, right? Yes.
Right? I need that. I think we all do.
Every leader needs that. Every person needs that.
Everybody needs it, man. And God answered the prayers.
Okay.
So I got two brothers, man, that are my guys.
So, a gift to me is to know the process. One of the things that's come out in the pandemic is I'm lonely. I moved to Nashville a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I sent a couple of grown men at my kitchen table and said, I'm asking you to be my friend.
Yeah.
One of them burst into tears because they'd never been asked that question as a grown up.
Yeah.
And the other one looked at me he looked at me pretty weird. Yeah. What is the process you went through to identify those folks?
Man,
did you get on the phone? People reach out to you?
I wish I had a process, man. I wish I could tell you what the process was. It was really God answered the prayer. Because I was too busy. I didn't have time to go hunt for friends. And being a new pastor in a new city, you don't know who you can trust anyway.
That's exactly right.
I'm brand new.
Being an old pastor in an old city, you can't trust people, right?
You can't trust everybody.
That's right.
You can trust people,
That's right.
but you can't trust everybody. So I prayed. I asked God to send them to me, to show them to me. And God did that. And I wouldn't, there wasn't this, Mount Sinai moment, right? Where there's a burning bush. This is my friend.
And this guy, Tom, walks out and says, hello.
Right? It's not that, but God just kind of showed. I remember the first time that I connected with my best friend in Nashville. Man, we just went to lunch. We'd been trying to catch each other. He's a pastor, I'm a pastor. We've been trying to catch each other. And man, we went to lunch, man, and I think we'd scheduled lunch for an hour. Man, we were in lunch for 4 hours. We were at that table for 4 hours, just talking, just downloading, just sharing, just connecting. And that birthed it. That started it because he was easy to talk to. He understood kind of what it means to lead in our cultural world. He pastors a large church in Nashville, and we had a chance to just connect, man. And we both canceled all of the rest of our meetings for the rest of the day and just hung out and talked.
Did you leave that meeting 30 pounds lighter?
Listen, man, at least 15. At least 15, man. It was a game-changing moment for me because God had given me an adult friend.
Okay.
Right. As kids, friendship comes a little easier, but as adults, man, it's tough to develop friendships. And God gave me that gift, and God knows He had to send it to me because I don't know how I would have pursued it.
So my confession here is I've been in Nashville for 2 years now, a little more than 2 years. I've tried, but I have not prayed for friends. Yeah. And that will start today.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, ask
for community.
Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open.
All right. I'm calling your bluff, Pastor John. I'm calling your bluff.
You shall receive.
So walk me through being a husband and being a dad in this, when your neighborhood's on fire.
Yeah.
Because you got to take care of your people, like your job.
Yeah.
And I know being a pastor is a calling up, but it's your job. You got to take care of your people. Mm-hmm. You got to take care of every white friend you have that is calling you for, I'm sorry.
Man, you have no idea.
You got a book for me. What can I do? Yeah. I told one of my buddies, I was like, dude, just start giving them your Venmo and say, hey, I just need cash. And they'll send it. I said, man, they'll just give you money. But
that's hilarious.
So you got that, right? You've got all these other people dropping their bricks in your backpack right now. Yeah. But your priority is your wife and your kids.
Yes.
And you got, how old are your kids?
Man, 21, 19, and 16.
So you got 21, 19, and 16-year-olds. So now you got little pieces of your heart driving through these neighborhoods.
You better believe it.
You got little pieces of your heart wondering, are they going to be able to go to the grocery store and come back home?
Yeah.
Your wife's trying to figure out how to be a therapist in a quarantine.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
Man, it's been a glorious hard time.
You got to unpack that.
I've got two kids. who are in college.
Okay.
And so in the middle of the pandemic, they came back home and went online, right, for the rest of the semester. They want summer jobs. I'm not sure if we're going to let them have summer jobs because of the quarantine. Right? You get exposed to stuff, to virus, and you can bring it back home. And my wife is one of those persons with kind of a compromised immune system. So you got to be careful how you do that. That's why I got my mask and I'm hand sanitizer, trying to
hospitality, man.
Right, trying to make room and make space for folks to stay safe and healthy. Got a son who just turned 16. He's getting ready to get his license, and man, I'm not in a hurry to give it to him.
Nope.
My oldest son turned 21 on Tuesday of this week, but Saturday we were at a protest downtown in Nashville, doing it together, me and my boys. My daughter is 19 and feels everything, right? So it's about making space for them to be able to vent and talk, but also trying to provide tools and tips for them to process trauma, deal with that, be young adults, but also, what do you do with it? How do you channel it into something that's effective, something that's healthy? But they want to make a difference. That's that generation, millennials, Zs, and younger. They want to make an impact, man. They're you know, don't just tell me what's wrong. Show me how I can help. And so trying to channel that energy and that tension and that trauma in an area that's productive and efficient.
How has their outlook impacted you in a positive way?
Oh man, I am so proud of them. Man, listen, I am so proud of them and excited that they are woke.
Okay.
That they see what's happening and they don't run from it. They diagnose it. They recognize it. And a lot of that comes from the conversations we've had since they were kids. We've never shied away and pulled them away from the challenges that are happening in the world, and just really tried to raise them to see that your gifts are designed to meet a great need in the world. And so you can't be in purpose if you don't explore needs. If you are sheltered completely from brokenness, you'll never find purpose in this world. You have to see brokenness to see where your gifts meet that brokenness.
And if you don't find purpose, you don't find wholeness.
You don't find life.
You don't have life. You don't have relationships.
You don't have
got nothing.
You don't have it. So watching them grow and develop and see, this is where I can make a difference. This is where I can make an impact. Dad, how do I do this? And Dad, how do I? Man, it makes me super proud. And I know that's from conversations that started when they were kids.
Yeah.
Man, I grew up in a place called Southampton County, Virginia.
Okay.
It's on the border of North Carolina. It is as rural and as country as they come.
Okay.
For better or for worse.
Right. For all of it, right?
Now, when I came to Nashville, I discovered I was in the South.
Okay.
But I thought in Virginia I was in the South because Virginia's the seat of the Confederacy.
Okay.
Right? But when I got to Nashville, they were like, "Nah, you from the East Coast. You ain't from the South." I'm like, man, cut it out. But I had Southern experiences as a kid.
Yeah.
I grew up on a street called Cross Keys Road. Cross Keys Road is best known for 1831.
Okay.
1831, there was a gentleman named Nat Turner.
Yep.
Who was a slave, who led a slave insurrection, a revolt, 1831. That slave insurrection started on the street I grew up on.
Wow.
So that's the air I breathed as a kid. And my parents.
Both sides of that air, right? The good and the bad.
And my parents were intentional about making sure that not only did we know that history, we were proud of that history.
Okay.
Now, the county I grew up in is not proud of that history.
Correct.
Because there is there's a legacy of terror and trauma that resulted before that and even after that. Man, to this day, there is a Hanging Tree Road in that county. That's the name of the street. To this day, there is a Blackhead Signpost Road in that county. It is exactly what it sounds like. Post Nat Turner, after the revolt.
God, I'm frozen. I don't even know what to say.
After the revolt, slavery was already terrorism,
right?
On black bodies. They turned it up because they were so afraid of another rebellion. That rebellion killed 61 people. They were so afraid of that rebellion. They took Nat Turner, before they hanged him, they skinned him alive. In the courthouse in Southampton County, somewhere, there is his sword that he carried, but there's also a belt and a lampshade made from his skin.
God almighty.
Yeah. They skinned him alive, then they hanged him. Right? And so there was this fear of what would happen if the revolt occurred, a revolt like that occurred again. And so they began to institute even more draconian terroristic practices. Slavery got worse, if that's possible.
Gotcha.
So one of the things they would do is if there was a slave that was away from the plantation or a slave that was alone, they capture him, cut his head off. I put a post in front of the plantation and sit his head on the post. Kind of Lord of the Flies effigy kind of moment.
Yeah.
And that would become your psychological reminder that you don't want to do this again. My aunt lives on that road, Blackhead Signpost Road. Now, there are two versions of this, right? In 2020, that sounds terrible. Who would want that as their address? Right. Oh my God. My community says that's the name we want on the address. Because if you change the name, you'll forget the history.
You forget the history. It's a reclamation.
You'll erase it and act like it didn't happen. And generations that come after, subsequent generations, will never know the story. Because it's not taught in public schools. It's not taught in...
I've heard a lot about Nat Turner, and I never heard this.
It's not taught. It's not taught. Our community keeps it alive because the story needs to be told.
Right.
Historians will tell you Nat Turner's insurrection was one of the pivotal moments that ultimately led to the Civil War.
Right. And I've heard that part of it.
Absolutely.
I haven't heard the other part of it. So what happened in your heart? You grew up in that community. I don't know if it's about trauma. That's like being born in a fireplace. And you had parents who cared about you and said, we're going to look you in the eye, we're going to teach you about the road you've grown up on and the neighborhood you're growing up on.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Yes.
What happened in your heart that kept you from growing up and saying, I'm going to burn everything to the ground? And then when you had your 3 kids and you knew the struggles which you grew up in, you moved here when, 08?
2012.
In 2012, so 8 years ago. 8 years ago, your 21-year-old was a kid. Your 16-year-old was
8.
Still figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
I got a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
What happened in your heart that said, I'm going to model what this is going to look like. I'm going to use teaching. I'm going to use education. I'm going to take them with me and let them see with their own eyes, but we're also going to talk about channeling. I'm confident. I'm confident that I would not have the heart to train my kids in that way. I think my bent would be to train warriors, not thinkers and saints. What happened in your heart to shift that?
Well, I would say,
or maybe instead of what happened in your heart, how does a heart like that grow? That's not very fertile soil.
It's more fertile than you think.
Okay, tell me.
I had parents. It's a lot to unpack. I had amazing mom and dad.
Okay.
I have an amazing mom and dad. We're rural, we're country. It's rural, right?
Yeah.
People always understand urban problems and challenges in the urban setting. What people don't realize is the same challenges are found in rural settings.
Right.
You got rural poverty just like you have urban poverty.
And food deserts and hospital deserts.
Listen, there in 2020 in my county, there are folks who have outhouses. They weren't running water. 2020.
Right.
No computer access for their children. You know. So, what paper are you writing?
Right.
How do you navigate this world? So some of those change challenges. So my parents both had graduate degrees in our county. That put us in a very, very privileged space because that's not everybody's story. My parents, from the time I got here, exposed us and told us how blessed we were and how that is a responsibility now to provide for others what they don't have for themselves. And so that became the ethos. So every Christmas, man, before we opened a gift, we went around blessing kids who didn't have anything. My parents retired and built what's called the Borgins Neighborhood Outreach Center. It's a community center in the woods. For all practical intents and purposes. It's a rural community center that addresses the lack of running water, that addresses the lack of computer access, that addresses the digital divide for seniors and provides them computer literacy. They bought a house, built it next door to them, and turned it into a community center. So that's what I saw all my life.
That's real fertile soil,
right?
man.
That's what I saw in my life. Even in the midst of the challenges that we see, my father is on the board of supervisors, which is like the metro council, if you will, for a city. He's on the board of supervisors for the county, and he advocates and fights and engages. My mom is a an English teacher and taught for years, but is also a preacher and pastored my home church for about 3 years. That's where I come from, right?
Okay.
So it was
You
natural.
can't not.
It was natural for me to understand that you take what you have, you expose, you educate, you provide experiences, but always understand that the blessings you have are burdens for somebody else. That the blessings you enjoy, somebody doesn't have those, and you have a responsibility, not an opportunity. You have a responsibility to make sure that those who don't have access to what you have get a chance to experience as best as you can provide. You are not blessed to simply enjoy blessings. You are blessed to be a blessing. And that's the ethos that I was raised on, my brothers and sisters. I'm one of 5. Mm-hmm. And that's what we attempt, my wife and I, to how we attempt to raise our children. And I think that you can't shelter them from the realities of life. You can't shelter them from the culture they're living in. If you don't teach them about the world will teach them about the world.
That's right.
But they may not survive the world's education. They'll survive yours. So I think you got to be honest. You got to be genuine. You got to expose them to the realities, so they walk into it eyes wide open.
Yeah.
But they also realize, man, that's something in me that's designed for this moment. And so that's how we attempt to raise our kids.
I'm going to cut it off here. We're going to go back. God, man. This is the only show where I'm not even going to say anything on my own. I don't even have anything to say. I don't even know what to say. So this is Dr. John Delony. We are checking out of here. We'll be back. Talk to you soon. I don't even know what to say.